Doing that, we hope we make the decisions that are in the best interests of farmers and agriculture in general. So the issues we cover things like research and development, telecommunications, infrastructure, industrial awards. We represent at a federal level all the state farmer organisations who are party to the awards. Resource management, the recent Murray-Darling Basin Plan, foreign investment, trade, labour shortages, rural education, perceptions of agriculture. It just goes on. And to do this, we have an extremely committed base of committees and task force that report back to our Policy Council, which meets 3 times a year. And indeed, our next meeting of the Policy Council is late June up in Darwin, and that'll enable us to get a better grip of what's happening up there with Northern Territory Cattlemen's Association is one of our members, and to see firsthand the issues with the after effects of the suspension of the live cattle exports and the effect it's had on not only on producers but on transporters, agents and others involved in the industry. And obviously we have a very committed, loyal group of policy managers and support staff that are based in Canberra. And you know, we've got a fantastic group of staff there that really go above and beyond the call of duty in terms of often having to cover a multiple range of issues and do it very well. We do operate on a shoestring. I think everyone will always claim they operate on a shoestring. But we really do. We've reduced our staff in the last 10 years from 22 down to 12, but we're still undertaking probably the same level of duties that we did 10 years ago. And I think it's fair to say that we're recognised as the peak advocacy group in Canberra and recognised for that. It's a reputation we're proud of and one we want to maintain, and we're mindful that it can be easily lost. Sadly, our job is much about stopping stupid decisions coming out of Canberra as it is about influencing good decisions. So, and often a lot of the work is done behind the scenes and not out in the open where you can see it. So I'll just take you through some of the issues, arising out of the budget firstly, and then up to the election. And also a bit of a snapshot around what's happening around in agriculture around Australia. Hopefully it's raining at home too. I'm keeping a watch on the map. Looking pretty positive anyway. So agriculture is really an interesting place to be in at the moment, and but for some farmers around Australia, we're seeing what we'd call a perfect storm, and I don't mean that in the rain sense, but in a combination of lower commodity prices, increasing drought-like conditions, especially in northern Queensland and parts of Western Australia and Western New South Wales and around. And even though the Australian dollar has dropped by 5 or 6 cents in the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's still very high, and would certainly hope that it would drop another 5 to 10 cents and stay there too, and that would give some security for decision making, especially being export orientated. So we've got obviously high input costs and just the overall cost of accessing finance, which is putting short-term pressure on many farmers. So you've heard the stories about cattle prices in Queensland, and what we've got up there is even if rain falls in northern Queensland, it's not going to help them up there going into the dry season. They're stuck with those conditions until probably the next wet season, and but they've still got an excess number of cattle that they're not in a position to feed. They can't. There's no fodder available to feed them, and then the meatworks have got booked up for up to 2 months, and they've got nowhere to take them. So there really is a crisis situation in northern Queensland that has to be dealt with, and we're working with state and federal governments on those issues. And we've heard about horticulturalists, especially in northern Victoria, going out of business after having contracts cut and ploughing their crops in. And I was actually, I fly out of Griffith Airport, and I was just driving into Griffith, what's the day? Anyway, a couple of days ago. When you come in past the sale yards in Griffith into the town from the west, there's several citrus orchards there, and I just noticed as I was driving past that they'd all been grubbed out. The trees had been grubbed out next to the road, and sadly that's a sign of the times too for many citrus producers. So we've all heard of the farmer meetings that have been taking place around the country in reaction to these crises in Western Australia, with the grain producers over there, in Victoria with dairy producers, in Northern Victoria with the fruit growers, especially the canned fruit. And the issue there is just short-term issues of access to finance and what we can do, and I'll talk about that later with the drought package announced and the farm finance package. So the clear message is that there's no doubt that farmers in many parts of Australia are doing it exceptionally tough at the moment. But it is amazing that what a good fall of rain can do. And I've heard in WA that there has been some good falls of rain now, and that's enabled winter croppers to get out into the paddocks and start putting the crop in, which is a good sign. And I'm often told that the difference between a good farmer and a bad farmer is one good fall of rain. That can be correct. But I don't want to go on about Australian agriculture as being a negative story. There are plenty of exciting opportunities ahead, and so we've just got to acknowledge that the farmers are experiencing challenges, but some are also having good seasons, and there's exciting opportunities ahead, and that's the direction the blueprint's taking too, and I'll explain that a bit later. So we had the farm finance package announced, and we did welcome the package at the end of last month. You're probably aware of the details there. There was concessional loans of up to $650,000 for eligible farmers to restructure debt, invest in productivity, other support mechanisms, addition of rural financial counsellors, and changes to the farm management deposit scheme. The big problem is that it's contingent on the states and territories signing up to it to implement it, because they have to administrate it, and at this stage they haven't. So it's a really big issue, and I know in Western Australia that the Western Australian farmers over there are actually contacting the administrative body in Queensland to see if they'd administer the package for Western Australian farmers. That's how desperate they were, given that they couldn't get anywhere with the Western Australian government. So I think that's a pretty sad situation that they have to resort to do that. So we just want the politics to be put aside for the moment, for the state and territory governments to stop bickering and to sign up to this package, because that's the only way the funds are going to be released. Our other criticism of the packages has been really developed in isolation to the National Drought Policy reform that was announced about the same time by the Minister, and something that we've been working with the government on for nearly 6 years now. So we think these packages have to be rolled in together to be, well, at least work together, because at the moment farmers are sort of bewildered, thinking that well, when can we get access to this finance? But given the farm finance package is available now, if the states come on board, the National Drought Policy package doesn't start till the 1st of July 2014. So they're sort of wondering what's all these announcements about, and there's nothing out there for them. So it all comes back to politics, unfortunately. So, as I said, the drought policy package was released. Again, we've welcomed that. It's in line with the solutions to help farmers prepare for and deal with drought, and we acknowledge that things like the EC system and interest rate subsidies are a thing of the past. But if you can trigger a severe drought criteria, then there will be short-term measures in place, like was announced in the farm finance package, which are necessary to enable viable producers to keep going. So we welcome the drought reform package, but as announced by